Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and feel free to join the Patreon as well. You can request any kind of combat sporting related content that includes MMA as well, and you can also get betting tips and advice and just have general chats with people like-minded in the community. And also, if you are carrying on with some possible New Year's resolutions that you have now going into late February, and you are, wanting to stay fit and stay healthy and kind of stay active, then head over to grindactivekinetics.com and use code AXEL10 and you'll get 10% off some new fresh gym wear to feel good whilst you are, keeping fit. And yeah, let's get straight into this one. Links will be in the description for both of them. I think this is a good fight though to make between two American fighters who I believe their styles will possibly gel. I'm not too sure. I mean, I think it could gel to be an entertaining fight, or I think, one of them in Sean Strickland might show his experience and completely dominate, or Hernandez might be able to mix in his wrestling and then be able to dominate on the ground. Again, we'll see, but again, just to see two American fighters at the top of the rankings fight each other, I'm sure for any American UFC fans, that's just a rare thing and an exciting thing to see at the moment, because there really isn't that much, American talent at the top of the rankings, to be honest. So again, that must be something that's nice for them. And again, I think it's going to make for a good fight. And I'm happy that this fight has been made because, both of these fighters are at a point in their career where I feel like they basically have to cross paths. I mean, I'm not entirely sure if the winner of this, unless they do something really impressive, would then go on to get a title shot soon, because of course we've got Imavov, who's the clear guy that should get a title shot, even though, to be fair, he has technically got a loss to Sean Strickland on his resume. I still believe, Sean Strickland's had his chance to now fight for a title. He's lost twice in a row. Then, of course, that was against Duplessis, and then Duplessis gone on to lose badly to Chimaev. So again, that's kind of not aged well for him. But, I just don't think either of these guys will get a title shot straight away next unless they wait around for a while, because Chimaev hasn't even got a date announced for him to fight Imavov, and I've not even heard any kind of rumours of any kind of date that could be for that. I mean, it just seems like Chimaev is going to be one of them champions, unfortunately, kind of what everybody was expecting when he became a champion, where he'd just be fighting once, if we're lucky, twice a year. It's not going to be one of the champions who, are fighting consistently like we've had with an Alex Pereira in the past, or like a Marab last year as well. So again, it's a bit of a shame, but like I say, for these kind of guys like Anthony Hernandez, if he gets a win here, it's a big win for him, and he's on a good run. I'm sure he wouldn't want to be waiting out for ages to get another opportunity. So again, then you have to kind of look at the other guys in the division and think about possibly a possible interim title that could happen if Chimaev is out for a long time, or just other matchups that are there and available. Sean, though, again, like I mentioned, he has had his fight with Duplessis last time, but that was over a year ago now, since he had that rematch with Duplessis, which he lost clearer than the first time, and he had his nose busted up in that fight. And of course, like I mentioned, that hasn't aged very well with Duplessis being dominated by Chimaev the way that he did, which I think, again, what I've kind of touched upon, will make the fans not really care to see Sean in a title shot unless he gets a big win in a very impressive fashion in this fight, because he's not really been known for getting many huge KO victories throughout his career, especially at a high level. But if he's able to do it against Hernandez, Hernandez is an exciting guy coming through. And I mean, coming off the win that he's had last time against Elidze, it was a very, emphatic win. And so if Sean is able to go out there and knock out Hernandez, it would be, it would be definitely a statement. And again, then you can start talking about the fact that Sean has beaten Imavov already. So again, that's the only argument that you could really make for him to get a title shot again. I do always find it funny with Sean, though. He has always so much to say on the microphone. We've just kind of seen his press conference just yesterday when I'm recording this, and that was a bit of a mess in itself, but it always is with him. But I always find it funny with Sean how his style isn't really an all-out war style, even though, I mean, I'll give him credit that he has heart and, he's willing to try and walk you down, but he's not got an all-out war type of style. He's just kind of teep kicking and sticking out a jab and just parrying shots and trying to fight the hands. It's not really a, like I say, an all-out action type of style, but pretty much before every one of his fights, he talks about how he's going to war and that, he's doing it for the fans and that it's going to be so exciting and that, he's getting really pumped and just shouting and stuff like that. And again, that's just not really ever what we see with his style. I mean, the first Duplessis fight was good. It was a little bit more exciting. He threw a bit more. The Adesanya fight was the kind of highlight of, Sean's career when he managed to get what was a big upset at the time against Adesanya. And, again, that was exciting. And we saw a little bit of more kind of fast-paced version of Strickland. But again, for the most part, we just haven't really seen that. I mean, the second fight with Duplessis was very stagnant. He wasn't really doing that much. Duplessis could basically leap in and basically do whatever he wanted in that fight. And yeah, it just wasn't the most exciting. And then he had his nose busted up and then he really couldn't do anything from there. So I would be interested to see if he is going to be shouting about having a war and everything like that again, if he does have a war in this type of fight, because he definitely could. I mean, Hernandez wants to set a fast pace, and Sean Strickland might be able to do that. But there was talks, I think I've heard MMA Guru or somebody like that talk about how the fact of Eric Nixick's fighters at Extreme Couture, a lot of them have recently started to have a bit of like a sparring type style where they're not really turning up the tempo. And I think this fight will be interesting to see if Sean again does pick up the tempo, because Hernandez, as a fast-paced, overwhelming type of fighter, if Sean isn't picking up the tempo, he could get really, hurt in this fight, and he could get completely outworked. But you would think that Eric's, and the team would have trained for this and would have prepared for this, and he will be ready for this, or able to slow him down or able to match his pace. Again, I'm not too sure. I think that Sean can go the 5-round distance at a pretty fast pace, but again, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's just something in which I've heard with Extreme Couture fighters. I think we've seen it with Chris Curtis a bit more recently as well. Just a few of their fighters we've seen starting to fight at a bit of a slower pace and not really wanting to turn up the tempo. And I think Sean's kind of been the demonstrator of that at the higher level at the moment, because he is one of the bigger names in which are with Extreme Couture at the moment. But again, also people don't realise the names in which Sean Strickland has on his resume, which again can help him possibly, if he is able to get a good win, get a title shot. Of course, like I mentioned, he has a win over Marvov, that's aged well, but he also has a win over Allen now as well, which has aged well as well, with the fact he was actually able to KO Brendan Allen. And again, they are now two top contenders. So really, I mean, you could possibly make a rematch there with him and Marvov, but I mean, that would be, I would imagine that would only make sense for, again, like say, an interim title if Hamzat just isn't going to fight anytime soon. I'm excited by Hernandez though as a fighter. I weren't sure what his ceiling was when he first came onto the scene, but he is now coming off 2 good wins, basically trying to rip the head off Dolidze at the last time out, when he just kind of dragged him into a kind of submission state where he just couldn't really do anything more, and that was pretty brutal, to be fair. And of course, he was able to get a win against Brendan Allen, which again has aged as well. Good. And then, he also got a good win against Pereira to get himself into the rankings when Pereira was on a bit of a run himself. So again, he's been moving well. He's been getting a good mix of submissions and KOs and decisions, and I think he is just a pretty well-rounded fighter, to be fair. I was interested in seeing the fight with him and a wrestler. I don't think he's fought kind of a pure wrestler just yet, and obviously he was meant to fight RDR, and RDR's kind of been showing that he's not just a pure wrestler with the knees that he's been hitting on the inside, but obviously that fight didn't happen. Like I mentioned, I would have liked to have seen that happen and a bit more of a wrestling contest for Hernandez, but obviously we've got this, which probably won't be, I mean, Sean Strickland is not a high-level wrestler, so again, he could possibly dominate if the wrestling goes in his favour. But again, the wrestling and submission ability and the fact that he is just a well-rounded fighter in general, Hernandez, you would kind of have to say maybe the style you would put up against somebody like Chimaev out of all the contenders in the division. Again, you look at the contenders in the division and, well, you've got Marvov, and he's predominantly a striker, and we've just seen what happened with Duplessis as a striker. and he got dominated on the ground. We've also got Sean Strickland, and he's mainly a striker as well. And again, that could possibly have the same kind of outcome, and that wouldn't be exciting for the fans. But Hernandez knows how to operate on the ground. He knows how to set a high pace and be, you know, dealing with that high pace as well and wanting to do that. And Chimaev, we've seen him on multiple occasions come and set a very quick pace to start off with. So I think possibly you would say out of the contenders that he is the star you would want to see Chimaev against. I mean, he's capable on the ground, and we haven't really, again, like I say, seen him too much on the ground in a defensive way just yet, but he is shown that he's more offensively capable on the ground than somebody like a Drickus, and also he's got good striking ability as well, and he's well-rounded with his striking as well, possibly more well-rounded than that of Chimaev as a striker, and he's probably better, in my opinion, as a striker than Chimaev. Not to say that he's got as good a wrestling ability. Again, that's just, up for debate, and we haven't really seen that just yet from Hernandez. But just, I think he could be the style that you would, again, like say, want to put up against somebody like a Chimaev if you want to, get any contenders to have a chance against somebody as good as Hamza. To speak about both fighters individually, though, we'll start off with Strickland, and I think he manages range well. I think that's pretty much, what he's always been known for being able to do, just to keep that range, maintain a bit of a distance, and just kind of work away. He's consistent in his work, and you kind of, what you see is what you get with him. He'll slowly kind of chop away and kind of creep forwards as well whilst doing so, and just keep kicking, keep jabbing, keep that bit of a distance there, and then occasionally switch things up and kind of catch you off guard a bit like he did with Adesanya. But for the most part, again, it's pretty good fundamentals that he'll show, and he'll keep that range. He's got solid counters as well for the most part. He was able to demonstrate them all right in both of the DDP fights, but just not doing them enough, in my opinion, especially in the second fight. He's accurate for the most part as well, but again, his output just isn't enough, I don't believe. He parries punches well, he kind of fights your hands and can be frustrating in that way, and again, that would be something in which I'm sure Hernandez hasn't had to deal with too much so far. He's got, again, a strong jab as well. He can catch you off guard, like I mentioned. He's used to going that full distance, and something in which we have kind of seen with him, which he likes to do, and I think maybe this is where he gets his mindset of being this exciting fighter, is the fact that he likes to have kind of a big end to a fight. It's kind of like a Max Holloway kind of end to an extent, where he is just throwing everything he can for the final kind of 30 seconds, and just trying to really put it all out there, and then he gets really excited at the end. And again, it might be something a bit different. It'll be interesting to see if Hernandez makes him have a really, fast-paced fight, if he can then deal with having a big kind of finish. But again, he was able to do it well against DDP, and his nose was still busted up. So again, it's something in which we've kind of seen often with Strickland. Negatives about him: he's very flat-footed. He's been knocked out bad, but I mean, Hernandez got knocked out early on against Kevin Holland as well. But I mean, the knockout that Strickland got from Alex Pereira was pretty brutal. I don't think he's got the best of agility or versatility in his work either. He stands pretty tall. It's got minimal head movement, and that's where he's kind of just fighting the hands and trying to parry shots and just fighting, like I say, fighting your hands. But when it comes to taking hooks and things like that, he can get caught with them. He doesn't really like fighting in the pocket too well and in close in general. He doesn't really work on the ground too much. He often is, the only time he's on the ground is just when he's in a defensive position trying to get to the cage. He can get up all right, but he's, he isn't really much of a threat on the ground, and he isn't really going to try go for a takedown, I would imagine, either. He can be outworked. He often sticks his knee up when he's under that pressure, which is a bit of a weird one. He sticks his knee up and then he just kind of puts himself in like a one-legged flamingo position where he's just off balance. I don't really get the purpose of that, and it can be often when he's in close, just like I say, under pressure, and it just then results in him falling backwards, but it's a bit of a weird one. He's a big target in front of you in close. He doesn't really throw often enough in bunches, in my opinion. Unless he can get you hurt, he doesn't really throw often in bunches. And again, I just didn't see him work that much or really try and turn up the tempo, even though he knew he was losing in that second DDP fight. He also, again, I don't think fights and deals with a lot of pressure when he's under a lot of pressure, and just, Hernandez will set that pressure. And to speak more about Hernandez as a fighter, he sets a high tempo and does make you work, which again, will be interesting to see how Strickland deals with that. He mixes in his striking to get to the grappling positions and get to grappling spots, and he did that well against Elidze. Maybe it's a little bit, rushing and a little bit too fast-paced, and it can lead on to him getting caught with shots. But, to mix up the striking to then go in with the grappling is still impressive. He overwhelms you starting early. He's a fast starter. He's going to try and put it all on you early. And again, it will be interesting to see if he does go to full 5-round distance, if he's able to do that. But I'm pretty sure he is able to do that. He's got good striking variety. I think he showcased that well in the Dolidze fight, how he was able to mix things up well in close. To then also, at a little bit of a distance as well. He landed, some nice straight shots when his corner told him to, but then he also was able to get in close and mix in the knees as well before he then went and just basically tried to just drag Dolidze's head off. He's got good on-rushing attacks, which again isn't always the best, but he can, overwhelm opponents and catch them off guard. He worked his ground and pound well. He's, going to either put on the ground and pound or work submissions, which is just a bit more exciting. It's offensive grappling, which we don't see, I don't feel like, often enough in the UFC. We can see a lot of fighters just be comfortable in dominating positions, but then not actually go for the submission, or not actually try and progress position, or really try and work ground and pound either enough. And again, Hernandez will do that. He takes you down and then, will let you get back up, and then he repeats that again. He was able to do that well against Dolidze, and it just tires him out. I think by the second round, Dolidze was just completely knackered, and it was only the second round. And he does beat up the leg as well, which I think will be interesting to see if he does that with Strickland, because Strickland does check kicks quite well as well. Negatives about Hernandez: he's not got as good a timing in my opinion. His head is on the line quite a lot as well. I think there is definitely gaps there to land on when he is trying to throw and he is trying to work, because he is so fast paced. He comes on to shots, and I think he could definitely come on to a few of Strickland's shots if he starts quickly and with his, jab and things like that. He leaves his leg there when he is going for takedowns. He can often leave his leg in there too long, and then he can possibly get caught with some sort of a leg lock or something like that. I mean, Dolidze was trying to go for it, and it almost, it wasn't that close, but it kind of was happening on a couple of occasions. And maybe if he fights somebody a bit better at wrestling, he could get caught out with that. But again, I don't think that would be much of a problem against Strickland. He sometimes takes to give quite, well, when he's on the feet, he does that quite a lot. And early on, he can take the stronger shot before he gives his own shot, so he can take quite a big shot and then respond back with a shot that's not quite as big, but just because then he doubles it up with another shot, it then can land a bit better. He often, like I say, is allowing you to get up, and he might not be as comfortable when he is on your back. He didn't really seem like he enjoyed being on the back position of Dolidze much in that fight, and he was, again, trying to allow him to get back up. And, I mean, if he keeps allowing Strickland to get back up, Strickland will do that, and then he'll get back to work again. So I think he should try and keep Strickland on the ground for a bit longer, and then work again that ground and pound, and maybe go for submissions and things like that if they are available. Who do I think is going to win this fight? I think that Anthony Hernandez is going to be able to win via unanimous decision. Recently, the UFC has been, at least in my opinion, quite difficult to predict, to be fair. There's been a few little upsets and things like that which have kind of caught me off guard, but I'm going to go with an Anthony Hernandez win for this one. I think he's a more well-rounded fighter. I think he's going to set a higher tempo, which Sean Strickland talks the talk that he's comfortable with, but he doesn't actually seem that comfortable with. And if he can mix up the striking and then go for the takedown, I don't think Sean Strickland actually commits to strong enough attacks. Again, the only thing in which I would be concerned about for Hernandez is if he's going to the leg kicks, he might get his leg checked on a couple of occasions, and that could start, to hurt himself. But that'll be interesting to see if that happens. And Sean Strickland, I mean, if he tries to box with Sean Strickland, then that won't be good. And if he keeps allowing him to get back to his feet, then he could definitely get caught with some shots. But I still think that Hernandez is going to be able to win a unanimous decision. Then who he can go on to fight again, possibly for an interim title if Chimaev has taken ages to fight. We could see him versus Marvov. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, a Barallo fight would be a good fight to see. But is that a fight that Anthony Hernandez cares about? Maybe if the Chimaev fight is taking ages to happen, maybe a Barallo fight could happen. I'd be interested to see that. Or a Duplessis fight, but I'm hearing kind of murmurs of a Duplessis versus Brendan Allen fight, and I think that's a good fight as well. So, I mean, if that happens, then again, we're going to be leaving Hernandez with the only possibility of Barallo, really. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.